Welcome to Hustle and Heart, where soulful strategy meets bold ambition. I'm your host, Edie Weintraub, and every episode we explore what it really takes to create places and experiences people feel drawn to. From chefs shaping culture one table at a time, to developers imagining neighborhoods worth lingering in, and creatives who remind us that connection doesn't happen by accident. This isn't just a conversation about real estate, restaurants, or business. It's about play and belonging and the courage to design everyday life with intention and heart. Today's guest lives right at that intersection, and I'm so excited to dive in. Ryan, please, for those who have not met you before, tell everyone a little bit about you and what gets you jumping out of bed in the morning.
Well, Edie, thank you so much for having me on this morning or your afternoon. My name is Ryan Rosen. I'm the founder and creative director of Friendly Futures. Our mission is to design a friendlier world. And for us, that means making it a better place to play with friends.
So I know that your work is rooted in play, but not in a frivolous way. When did you realize that play is actually a serious tool for connection, creativity, and culture building?
I mean, one part of me could say when I was like 5 years old, but a more recent part of me would probably be when I was around 19 or 20. So yes, I do have that, not even rehearsed, it's just authentic. Play to me is such a valuable thing, and I feel so grateful that we have a company where our mission is to make the world a better place to play with your friends, because that's really all I want to do is play with my friends. And I want to do that both for joyful and frivolous reasons because it's really fun, but I also want to do it more importantly because I realize the wellness potential of feeling really connected to my community. And play just makes it so much easier, more natural and effortless to do so. So I feel like, since I was 5 years old, I've been playing with my dad, my brother, my mama, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my dad's buddies, cousins, aunts, uncles. But playing has always been my favorite memories when I was a kid, where we'd move the couches out of the living room and we'd play football. So
inside.
Absolutely, yeah. I just inherited the idea that gamifying your space is like a normal thing to do. My mom didn't love that aspect as much when we made the living room a football arena, but you got to fight your battles, I guess. And it was so fun, and my brother and I would be so stoked. So yeah, since a young age, playing across generations has been a very normal thing, and constantly gamifying our environment and our interactions and having a lot of really fun interactions subsequently has been kind of my norm. And that's probably the genesis of how Friendly Futures came to be with this mission and this niche of creating play for more social wellness and better relationships in our communities.
So I know you talk about making everyday life an invitation. What's one small, maybe invisible design choice that you've seen change how people interact with the space?
A small, invisible design choice.
Or something that people just can't recognize, or maybe they can't put their finger on it to describe, but then they're immediately pulled in.
That's a great question. I'm trying to think of your world too, right? So like a coffee shop, maybe there's some, or actually this is fresh off the top of my mind, skiing this weekend. A ski lift that has a trivia question that's at the bottom of it, at the top there's an answer, and the ski lift operator that's really into the question and that's the kind of medium to start conversation with the people that are there. So that's like a really small, subtle thing that all of a sudden that person had, hundreds of conversations that day that otherwise wouldn't have happened because of it. Or you're at a coffee shop and someone has some form of interactive clothing, or maybe there's a prompt or something like that, or I don't know, there's a little sign that says tell me your favorite color. And it's something like that, where it just eases the kind of barrier between interacting with strangers that is really high for most people. And when there's an invitation to do so, and it can be something super subtle, like those two examples, it's an example and kind of being playful too, making it much easier, subtle design decisions so that people are interacting more in the public realm.
Now I want to know what that question was. What was it?
That is a good lift. What was my trivia question?
It's okay.
I'm curious. It was something to do.
And I also wonder how often they're changing it.
Well, it's funny because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking of two different trivia questions, and I'm actually conflating the different things. But one of the questions had to do with, I believe it was the average snowfall in that particular peak, or no, it was the elevation of a peak of that chairlift is what it was.
Okay. I feel like I give you a moment to think about it because it looks like my Wi-Fi decided to not act fun on me. So do you recall what the question was, or can you contemplate how often you think they change it?
If I had to guess, I would imagine they change it daily. And at least I was doing it, keep it fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
The question was, what's the elevation of the peak that's next to the chairlift? But even like fun trivia like that's great. I remember I had dinner later that night with my dad, my brother, a buddy of my dad's, and two kids they were 9 and 12. And we played a trivia game. And, I partnered with the 9-year-old, my brother partnered with the 12-year-old, and my dad partnered with his buddy. And it was a way of making it so instead of like the little kids being on their phone the whole time at dinner, like phones weren't allowed, super like off script, and everyone was just constantly interacting with each other. It was really fun. So I really think play is a super valuable ingredient for improving social relationships, and social relationships are so valuable for our well-being in return. So if you follow that downstream, if you just start playing a little bit more in your life, wow, there's real wellness consequences to that. And then we have to think about, okay, well, if we respond to our environments and our environments aren't shaping and actively encouraging us to play, it's no wonder that feels kind of out of most people's daily norm. So that's why we need to tweak our environments. It can be super subtle, like having more trivia questions bouncing around or having interactive clothing or these subtle prompts that at least just give us room to breathe and connect in a playful way. Or it can be at a larger scale. But I think it's really valuable that we start to tweak our communities and so they are more playful, so that we can have better social connectivity, improved relationships. And that's just so paramount to our well-being.
Completely agree with you. I'm leaning into my next question, asking you a little bit more about like, how can we design for joy? But I know that you've already done work in places that are desperately needing the experiences that you help kind of foster and grow. I think part of it is also you help folks slow down, right? Versus the speed and the scale that we're used to working in. So for our audience that hasn't checked out your website before the episode, can you describe a couple of recent projects you've worked on and maybe kind of the before and after and how you've sat back and watched how people are enjoying them?
Sure. So we came up with a concept called neighborhood games. And essentially it's games. Everyone loves games, right? That are branded for a community or place. They are made for all ages to play. I talk all the time about playing with my grandma and how valuable that is. And that's a key part of what we do with our design is we tweak them to make them more age inclusive. Some games are already good at that. Some need some love. And then most importantly, they're designed to be social and have tons of social prompts and opportunities for people to engage with each other. And, they can be like an overlay. So they can be essentially rules going on top of an existing space or an amenity or small like spatial like intervention. So there's an existing Zen garden and we put some rocks into the Zen garden, but made it concentration style so that when you're walking around the Zen garden, you have something to do. You can play with your friends in like a meditative and aligned way. And then you're also rearranging the Zen garden, which is one of the intentions of it. So it's constantly moving and being fresh. Or a neighborhood game can have a bigger impact. There's a space at UCSD where, it's in just a small, not small, I don't know, a patch of grass. No one's there. We brought one of our mobile games there, the Caterpillar Olympics. And all of a sudden we saw people in their 80s and, small kids. It was a festival day. It was a pop-up. Everyone using the space, interacting with each other, playing fun twist of cornhole, ping pong, new games being invented in this otherwise unactivated boring area of grass. So neighborhood games are what Friendly Future specialize in. And the whole purpose is to, again, when we're thinking about how play can be valuable for improving our relationships, this is like an explicit, way of we're very intentional about designing games so they can help improve our relationships and tweak our environments so they're more playful.
That we happened to be traveling abroad and we were out and about on a Saturday or Sunday and they had just all these activities for kids. And at the time, I think mine were like 10 and 13. And it was just sticks and ladders and pans and even the adults, they're like, come, make some noise. Let's have some fun. And what they didn't know is that my kids are musicians. My youngest is a drummer. My oldest one's a bass guitar. And so they actually put some rhythm together. And so they had this little crowd of people come over and watch and cheer them on. So it was really beautiful for folks to have just that opportunity to express themselves, whether they're a musician or not, and, a variety of ages. So it's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing
it sounds like party time. It illustrates perfectly the power of play, right? There was no reason before for your kids and some strangers and yourself and to gather in public together, right? but through just like really small mediums, like I think you said it was sticks and one other thing that were reimagined as musical instruments, all of a sudden people got to share this magical moment of connection. And that happened, it spurred from people being playful. And then there was something that they could interact with. It's very challenging to fabricate a conversation between people that don't know each other. It's hard enough for a lot of people that do have relationships with each other. I know plenty of families that struggle to have pleasant conversation at the dinner table, right? Like, what do you talk about? Sometimes it's really challenging. Our social skills aren't improving as a society right now too. But play gives us content to discuss that we can share. And instead of people just being near each other and having like sharing space, play makes it so we're sharing an experience. And there's lots of different types of play, right? Restaurants can do that really well. Like food is great for that. But when we have the opportunity to go from sharing space to sharing experience, it's really transformative.
There's an Instagram reel that I've been following recently where they basically give you like a cake or a cupcake and it's your job to decorate it. And so they give you the bowls for icing and they encourage you to, make this beautiful canvas your own. And so it's kind of a way to take something that's just delicious and sweet, but you get to make it yourself.
I love that. It sounds super fun. Plus I love dessert. So I'm all in.
I mean, who could pass that up? Of course. So have you seen anything on what's the difference between something that looks good on Instagram and then one that truly invites belonging? I mean, I love the description that you just offered, where again, you don't have to know anybody. You just have to go and play and immediately you're smiling and you're having fun and you get to interact with people that are just strangers. And so it's fascinating to create an offering that encourages you, like invites you to come in.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go positive and optimistic here about, let's say, every once in a while where social media can lead to more IRL connection. I'm not really on Instagram or TikTok personally, but I have been sent videos of like various chess clubs that people hear about through social media and then congregate in person, or other like you hear about a new pickleball or paddle club or ping pong, or people send me new games and stuff that I see, like paddle or padel, really popular right now. Ping pong, also very fun. I played both of them yesterday with spanning ages of 12 to, I'm going to say late 60s. I don't think he was pushing 70. My buddy Eric, let's say he's young 60s, but
Fair.
Moved like he was 38, 39 at the max. I saw a video of people playing paddle and ping pong combination. So I think there's an example, at least, of like social media being valuable to bring people IRL. I think that's what's really valuable. There's plenty of examples of people having a false sense of connection online, and I don't think we need to get into maybe the detriments that online quote unquote connection has to our actual in real life connection.
Absolutely.
I think learning about places to go meet friends IRL, that can be valuable with social media. And then what makes a place successful in doing so, I think when you have a shared activity, again, like the first part is you have a nice place where people can gather together. So literally people can come and spend time there. And then two, there's some form of medium that can ease the tension in interacting with each other. There's a lot of different ways that we can play, right? Intellectual play, physical play, creative play. I love arts and crafts classes. I love going to play sports. I love doing puzzles. All of it's super fun.
And you are 100% analog. Look at you. I love it.
I'm super, pro, like new technology and leveraging various tools and whatnot. Absolutely. But I think we live in a time in digital fatigue. We've had an opportunity to reflect on how, social media has impacted our lives and our social lives, and maybe identify what's valuable and what's not. And I think as AI becomes increasingly transformative in our society, there's just going to be an increased premium on human connection. And human connection is really where there's so much opportunity for us to improve and index our time on. I'm so inspired by different generations starting to live more increasingly together. So how do we make it so that we can live well together? And what are the opportunities to do that? Yeah, analog for sure, because I think we should take advantage of all these beautiful new technological tools that we have so that we can spend higher quality time together in person.
I so appreciate that. I'm getting pulled into watching a show on Netflix right now. It's called Billionaire's Bunker. I've been having this discussion, and you kind of alluded to it with, bots and AI and whatever. I mean, you don't know what's real on your phone. And so in this show, there's a group of people that display for billionaires that there's going to be an apocalypse. And so they get them to spend all this money to be in a bunker where basically they're in control. And so it's just illuminating for you how in real life is so necessary and important, because none of the stuff that they fabricated actually happened. Like the first episode, shut this off if you haven't watched it yet. The first episode, the end of the episode, like they pulled everybody into the bunker and then they created this movie as though the world had ended. And then they showed how someone went out of the bunker and they like touched a railing and their hand was burning. And then they have radiation poisoning, but it was all fake. But here they think the world is gone and they're the only living survivors, but yet they're being taken advantage of. So I think that we need to help everyone, and whether they learn that through play or reading or whatnot, get back to understanding like the micro expressions. Yes, it's great that we've got Zoom and podcast and all of that, but there's certain things that you pick up in person that you can't pick up digitally.
Yeah, human connection is super important. And doing that in person is very valuable. And even reading to me is a form of play. So reading clubs that have become more popular and people reading together. We're designing a kind of reading club area right now. And it's designed intentionally for like book talks and collectively reading. There's plenty of places to read by yourself and have a solitary pursuit. Plenty of nice spaces do that. A lot less of good places to read together with buddies, new and existing friends. So to me, there's so many different ways for us to play. Really, play can be substituted with the word like a shared activity that gives people a common ground to speak upon, right? So at least there's something that we have that can guide and support and structure initial conversations, and then it can branch off organically from there. So reading is great. More, when you think of play, like, climbing or whatever can be great too. All of it. So yes, I agree with you that it's really important that we spend time together in person.
I agree. I think it's really heartbreaking to learn that the Surgeon General was warning us about loneliness. And, the World Wide Web was supposed to bring us together, but yet we are so sad and disconnected and lonely. And I think what I've been seeing and hoping to promote beyond play is, encouraging civic spaces to allow for people to come and gather without feeling the need to spend money. Like I'll go have a meeting in a coffee shop, but I feel obligated to buy a coffee or a pastry or something like that, where I've been encouraging some municipalities to put in, just a chessboard, and maybe they just drop the pieces off at the local coffee shop, and the local coffee shop says, hey, if you want to play chess, give me something to barter with so I know I'll get my chess pieces back, but here, go play. Have you seen anything like that you've been involved with to encourage play without people feeling like they need to compensate in some way?
Yeah, our work for sure. And so I agree. Let's have more civic spaces, more places for people to come together. But especially where we are now as a society with these digital distractions that we've been discussing and social skills, relatively speaking, eroding, especially among younger people. If you just bring people near each other, that does not reliably predict that there's going to be connection in any way, shape, or form, right? So if you don't bring people near each other, you're not going to have connection. But bringing them near each other, again, into the shared space isn't that much better. You need to have some form of shared activities to more reliably predict and create the social connection outcomes that people are searching for. So I think there's lots of really good examples of that starting to happen. And again, like we talked about, play can be super subtle or it can be more spatially intensive. But the common denominator of there's just things for people to do is super valuable. So the coffee shop out, having like some chess tables outside, that's a really easy thing to do that at least starts to give people some activity to do as well. And maybe the coffee shop, is able to leverage that and is going to get more business because local people in the community can start to go there and play chess and they can have coffee if they're there. You don't need to buy a coffee. Anyone's welcome to come, but you're more likely to do it. And maybe people are playing chess later in the afternoon when traditionally you're not selling as much coffee. But chess, that's got to be locked in up north to be playing chess. You might want a coffee at 4 in the afternoon. So extend the coffee, the coffee shop's potential hours of business. So things that are subtle like that, I think are great. I'm trying to think of something that I experienced recently that we did not design. Let's see. Oh, I should have more examples off the top of my head right now.
No, share what you've done.
You know what? Something that we saw recently was there at the paddle club where I was playing. They have a, kind of fun cornhole setup out there. And me and some buddies, we tweaked it a little bit and used our paddle rackets to play cornhole. So it was a little bit more thematically integrated with the place. And we made some new friends there and it was a good time. And then just play paddle as well with them too. Something that I'm excited about that we've done is there's this community in north of Dallas and McKinney called Painted Tree. And we're designing a really unique sports park there. It's super fun. It's in this floodplain area that otherwise is it's highly visible from the neighborhood and there's not much going on. And we're kind of just curating the land and creating this hybrid cricket baseball court that has a track that surrounds it. So from the neighborhood, 'cause it's perched up, it looks like this really cool piece of land art. And you go down there and the demographics of the neighborhood, there's a large first-gen South Asian population. And cricket is very popular over there. And baseball, is, there's also a traditional Texan population. Baseball and cricket are similar games. They evolve. Baseball evolves from cricket. So, putting them together in this fun mashup. And then we take the lessons of golf as a really great example of an age-inclusive game with different tee boxes. So we reverse engineer that so we have various home run boundaries so that, my grandma doesn't have to hit the ball as far as me to hit a home run. And then it's surrounded by a track. So if mama wants to go on a walk in the morning or something, she can watch her kids playing while she circles around. So I'm super stoked on that project as well.
You're getting all the steps, not realizing how far you're probably traversing because you're just engaged in play. And so again, like you said, the variety of ages, you get to play it together, but you're not all required. And maybe it's a personal goal, right? To reach the next level because you're not expected to, but you probably can.
I love that idea. I like it.
Would you say, it sounds like a good portion of your work is working with master plan communities. Have you done some work in the civic space as well with municipalities? Master
plan communities are definitely an exciting group for us to work with because we like to work at the neighborhood scale. But we've worked with gym owners. We're working in the gallery space right now. We're working in really urban, working in Mumbai, India, and very hyper dense urban areas. So the principles of our thinking of how to integrate play into our spaces to build more community and transcend the different typologies of our cities, right? So it could be in a more suburban Texas and it can be in a hyper dense India. It's just, hey, let's continue to think about how we can play more. We did some work locally here in San Diego where I reside and I'm born and raised. I go Padres. And in Balboa Park and have done some kind of pop-up activations there as well, bringing some gamified furniture and just creating shared activities for people to do together in the kind of main plaza rather than sit next to each other while you're on your phone.
What about the materials that you use? My vision in seeing them is that they're relatively timeless and weatherproof and all of that. Have you mastered that over time in terms of trying different things and going, oh, yeah, folks played with it. And all of a sudden, after X number of uses, we had to, repair it or whatnot. I'm sure you've had that time to kind of tinker in what materials work best.
Sure. Yeah. It's project dependent, right? And also what are the objectives? So is it, hey, we want to have something here that's super low maintenance. It's going to last for the next 20 plus years. Okay. Well, let's work with some thermally modified wood or concrete's always a lot of fun. Metals work great. Or it's more of is it inside? Is it outside? What's the weather? Also, is it more just programming and the kind of rules and branding that are layered on top of a space? Those have a long lifespan because they're taking up less space. So I don't think there's a secret material, more so just best practice of what works in various places. We don't always use a ton of plastics, more of often we use bright colors, but also try and work with some more natural material palettes and just really being flexible. Every project, the materials can differ as well because everything we're doing is boutique and context sensitive. So long story short, I think that every material has some pros and cons, but definitely when thinking about longer term projects, thermally modified wood and concrete are our friends.
I know that you and I had a chance to catch up at Fox Point Farms, and I've also seen a similar installation at Marin Country Mart, which is, not trying to create a playground per se, but literally 2 pieces of wood laying out there, and the kids have so much fun, climbing on top of them and under them and hide and seek and all of that. And something that is so simple, even, I remember my father telling me a story about growing up that he had an older brother that was kind of grumpy, and he would get a present, and the present would come in a cardboard box. And my uncle would take the toy and do his own thing with it. And my dad was just like simply happy to have the cardboard box. And he found joy in, the creativity of doing something unique with that. So it doesn't necessarily need to be something that is super expensive, but sometimes it is, I think, fascinating to let the kids or adults or whatever be bored with a certain material so they can figure out what to do with it.
Totally. No, I think the tree playground at Fox Point is awesome, and the local connection too of it coming from the 101, a street nearby. And I believe it was already, they had to remove the tree for whatever reason. So giving it a second life is a beautiful thing. But one thing that I think is super important to note about projects like that is they are very valuable and incredible to have. But I think they're insufficient or incomplete insofar as trying to create play for all ages to build community, because those are still ultimately playgrounds, and playgrounds belong to kids. And it's super valuable that we have spaces for kids to play with kids. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And caregivers can be there, and maybe they interact with other caregivers. They're probably not playing. They're probably watching their kids play, but maybe they're kind of playing with them. But still, I think there's so much more room for that just services a part of our greater population, right? But we need to create spaces where all ages can play, right? I need where my grandma can go. She needs awesome spots to go play with her friends and to meet more people where she can continue to build her community and give back. So I love the idea of climbing on giant trees. It's awesome. But I want us to also start to integrate more opportunities for everyone to be able to get in on the fun.
I just love how inspired you are. So tell us a little bit more about how, and I'm sure there's some inspiration from the clients and the community that you're in, but like, how do you craft things that are unique per opportunity? Like, what level of research are you doing? How are you kind of thinking through that? I think it'd be fun to kind of peel those layers back of your brain and explore.
Sure. So let's take a game that we designed called Golf. It's for a new neighborhood in Houston called Indigo. Really awesome neighborhood. The slogan of it is full bellied living. It's anchored by this like 40-something acre farm that residents there can enjoy the produce. And there's a real emphasis on this kind of like, back to nature living. It's probably not the best way of saying it, but being connected to your food and connected to your neighbors and all these values that I think are, super prevalent now, kind of returning to the village. So Golf comes from indigo. And there's a perfect example of taking the brand of the neighborhood and the spirit of the neighborhood and translating it into a custom game. So the game itself is like golf, except it's not. We have 14-hole course, a front 7 and back 7. And you go to each of the different places. And sometimes you're trying to put a ball into a hole, and sometimes it's another activity. But it's basically a way of exploring the neighborhood. It's a reason to go explore the neighborhood. And each site integrates into the overall urban design. So they have lots of really beautiful, like open green areas. And again, that's a great place to spend time near each other. That's the nice condition, the arena for social connectivity. And then the game itself is the reason to support more interaction. So you can constantly be playing. One of that reading library that we talked about, it's a place to collectively read. And there's like a bocce ball type of hole right next to it. And they integrate into each other. So it's a way of spurring connection in that regard. Even there's a golf pin module at each of the holes. We have the little sprout that comes from their logo integrated into the golf pin. They could do little farmer market like pop-ups and stuff like that at any of the holes. And they're just like, my favorite one probably is there's a fitness park in an area where they're trying to encourage like physical activity. So we designed like a fitness sculpture. It's the first hole of the course. And this one you play with an actual, it's like mini golf. And you can underneath where people do pull-ups. But if there's someone doing a pull-up there and you ask them to like take a shot for your team, you're rewarded in your score. So it takes what would otherwise be like, oh, you're just going to start talking to a stranger. There's X, Y, and Z reasons why you might be hesitant to do so. There's literally a structured reason in the space for you to interact with that person. And then to do so, structuring that interaction in a joyful way. And then from there, you can continue talking or you can go on, your separate ways. But you're much more likely to engage with your neighbor if you do that. So that's a fun example I like to think about.
I love that. It's like the question on the lower level of your ski lift, right? Like, what's something that, maybe you wouldn't have normally talked about that we can talk about today and bring everybody together on a common thread?
Completely. It's just giving people reasons to interact with each other and support and structure those conversations. And it's so much easier to continue once you've taken that first step. And the first step's the hardest one.
And we have so many introverts around us. So yes, if we can just gently nudge them in a way that they feel comfortable, I think that's a great way to do it.
Totally. And it's funny, people, I am somewhat extroverted myself, but introversion, extroversion, both are phenomenal. Introverts also benefit from knowing their neighbors and from having strong relationships. They don't need to go out into parties all the time and talk to tons of people. That burns me out as well, right? My dad, he likes to do that. My mom is an introvert. She doesn't want to do that. There's different ways of engaging, but everyone values from social connection. Everyone values when you have a relationship with your neighbor and you have some form of common ground to engage with them on. So that's really like when we think of a friendlier future, we're not trying to, create a super extroverted population. We're trying to give people opportunities to connect with each other, have a baseline of connection, support relationships as well. I mean, even with like that trivia example, post-ski day, hanging out at the dinner table with the two young kids, could have easily been on their phones, but instead they were engaged in having conversation with everybody. So for us, it's just about creating more opportunities for improving our social relationships, and play just really helps us out. And when the environment encourages it, it makes it that much more likely for more people to enjoy.
So as we close, here's what I keep coming back to. Placemaking and play does not start with a master plan. It starts with permission. Permission to pause, to play, to notice the people around us. And the most magnetic places aren't the biggest and the boldest. They're the ones that are offering an invitation to stay longer, to talk to a stranger, or to come back tomorrow just because it felt so good to be there. So this week, I'm sure you'll appreciate, Ryan, we should pay attention to the small moments, the bench in the shade, the cafe that feels like a living room, the indie golf that invites us to play in a variety of ways that are not traditional mini golf. And that's how we get connected. And that's how places earn their soul. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. For those who are interested in connecting with
you.
Sorry, how would they find you?
Well, I said I'm not on social media. I am on LinkedIn. So you can find me there, and our website is friendly-futures.com, and I can be contacted there as well. So I genuinely love making new friends and meeting new people. So if anyone ever has any questions about the world of play and social wellness, I'm more than happy to chat. And if anyone wants to challenge me to the sport of your choice or game of your choice, bring it on.
I feel like you might have a little practice in all the arenas.
My name is Ryan Rosen, and you're listening to Hustle and Heart.